word's on the street. This week we'll be talking about the Public Lands Transfer Act. What's happened since this became a law in Utah? How's it spreading around the country? One question that's related to this entire issue is the status quo. Our guests on our panel today are Ken Ivory, representative from District 47, Commissioner Alan Gardner from Washington County. What are the negative current impacts of the way federal land is managed? Can you just highlight a few topics on that?
The commissioner's on the ground, yeah.
Well, the general management of our forests, our inability to use our natural resources. Uinta County is just oil, 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 and yet we're unable to really even scratch the surface on what's available out there. The royalties off of that alone to the state could fully fund our education, could pay for enormous things that the state needs. And yet it's locked up out there by the feds, and we can't use it.
Can we actually use it responsibly as a state?
Yeah, you know, our state forester, Brian Cottom, was in our Natural Resources Committee a couple weeks ago, and he made a statement, something to the effect of 90% of our forests are at extreme risk right now. The federally managed forests be gone. It's inside of 10 years because of disease, pest, and fire. I mean, think about that, Chad. 90% of our forests extreme risk, the millions of animals killed, the watershed destroyed, the recreation opportunities, the income opportunities, property, life, and we know it's sitting right there, and yet the federal policies prevent any harvesting, any mitigation, and our state forester tells us that $1 in prevention saves $517 of the consequences from just letting the fires burn, and yet the federal policies are let the fires burn.
Alan, let me ask you a question, or Ken, either one. What's the value of a managed forest? What does a healthy forest look like?
A healthy forest will have 40, 50 trees per acre, and that doesn't look like a lot out there. It's more of a savanna type look. You look out there now in some of these forests, and the only thing you can see is trees, and that our climate does not allow the ability to provide water for that many trees. And besides that, when they get thick like that, they're little thin trees instead of some big trees like we like to see that can provide lumber and are a lot nicer to look at.
Yeah, we used to have dozens of sawmills in the state. We're down to 3, and they're at about a third of their capacity. And so the trees are still growing. We're not even taking 10% of the new growth out of the forest. And so you've already got overgrown forest. We're not even taking 10% of the new growth. And fuel, which, the timber, fuel does what fuel does. And so that's why we're seeing record-setting wildfires every year. Increased cost, increased acreage, increased destruction. It's a huge issue.
I work with commissioners on the Public Lands Committee with the National Association of Counties from all over the West. And particularly up in the Northwest, you get up in some of those counties had 20 sawmills per county. And they're lucky if they've got one left now. I mean, it devastates rural economies and everything besides.
So typical rule of thumb is somewhere around you harvest about 35% of a forest and then reseed it and move on. And so you're constantly thinning and moving. So that leaves like 70% of it intact. And what you guys are saying is that if in this preservationist move, we're potentially going to lose 90% as opposed to keep 70%. Is that basically
that's what our state forester and others are telling us. I mean, that's a huge risk to so many aspects of our state. You asked about states being able to take care of things. There's a great video on our American Lands Council YouTube page and the website. It's AmericanLandsCouncil.org. It's Governor Bullock from Montana. Opposite side of the political spectrum from me in most cases, but he says, look, we in Montana manage 5% of the harvest of the forested lands, yield 15% of the timber, and protect the species, protect the habitat, protect the watershed, and on the federal side it's just the opposite.
Well, there's an argument for you. It's a lively discussion. We hope you will join us for the full discussion Sunday morning at 8:30 on ABC for the County Seat. Share it with your friends on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter.